This is the Neoliberal Round podcast. Question: how does your theology speak to the issues and challenges of today? What solutions does your theology provide? Again, how does your theology speak to the issues and challenges of today? And what solutions does your theology provide? Victor Thompson, right here on the Sound of the Neoliberal Round podcast. Good afternoon. I am Ronaldo McKenzie, and welcome to another episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast. Today, we have two segments on this episode. The first segment, I will share with you on Theology Today, a subject or a course that I'm teaching at the Jamaica Theological Seminary this semester, starting August 29th. That course is a very deep and reflective and a course that challenges students to think practically about theoretical applications that they are forming for their own lives. And you may find it insightful and instructive. But listen as I delve into some of the issues and some of the topics and some of the ideas I have for this course. The second segment is a commentary about an WHYY or NPR news story that was carried a couple days ago about the Delaware School District and the fact that the students in the Delaware School District are having poor performance levels post-COVID. And I think they did a study, and when you look at the data, they compare 2002 performance or current performance 2021 to 2022 to performance from 2017, and I took issue to that because that's the range. There's a problem with the range, and there are several other problems with this kind of analysis, and I explain the problem with this kind of analysis and the data and the interpretation. There are a lot of interpretational issues and a lot of problems with the data, which speaks to the issue of analysis, and we're going to get into that. That's one of the things that we need to, as a society, we need to look at, the issue of how studies are being conducted. There is a lot of incompetence around how studies are being conducted. But I share the study or the data with you, and I delve into the challenges with the study and explore some solutions. We'll be right back after these messages. So I will be teaching or lecturing a new course this semester.
Okay.
It's at the Jamaica Theological Seminary. It's called Theology Today.
Okay.
And I actually got the course outline from the head of the department, Reverend Richard Bedford, who is one of my best friends, my brother, colleague. We went to school together. and he's actually the head of the department, and he taught this course before, Reverend Richard Beckford. So he actually had sent the course outline for me to review, and the course outline, the description of the course is that this course is a study. This is the 2021 course outline, and according to the course, the syllabus and the course description, the course is a study of the background and development of current theological thinking.
Okay.
With an emphasis on
what establishes current? What makes it current?
Well, I mean, of course, that is something we could discuss it in the class too. That is something that we can discuss. But we probably usually liberation theology or postmodern thinking, contemporary theology, people will look at the 1950s or 60s, the 60s, with liberation theology and the revolutionary movement and this drive to nationalism. So some people would think that the rise of that kind of postmodern thinking. The post thinking. So that's what. And some people would probably start it from current thinking in terms of the 1900s. Okay. The 1900s with the rise of evangelicalism, the evangelical church, you know what I mean? But of course, theology, current thinking, this is a Christian school, but theology, we could be talking about Christian theology, Hindu theology, or religious thinking. But when we talk about current thinking, current theological thinking within this particular school of thought at a seminary, Christian seminary, evangelical school, current thinking could be today millennial thinking, looking at it in terms of in a digital world, okay, but it could be that people's ideas about God have not changed, or the course, okay, or we could be looking at how people think about God. But the thinking I'm looking at, I don't want us to get down. I don't want to look at just current thinking in terms of those ways. You have to look at the course has to be looked at in a comprehensive and in a holistic manner. So it says current, but this is the previous, because I'm going to change the course outline. It says, so what it is, a study of the background and development of current theological thinking with an emphasis on modern and postmodern theological trends in the Christian community. The course will briefly survey theological developments up until the mid-20th century, yes, and then devote sustained attention to trends that largely have their genesis in theological ideas from the 1960s. But of course, I'm going to go beyond that.
I don't understand why it's saying trends from the 1900s and the 1960s when they say that they wanted to become contemporary. How did they open up?
Current theological thinking.
Yeah, so.
But I think they're looking at how current theological.
That's historical.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can't look. You have to look at what was before you can look at what is.
True.
So they're gonna look at what was. Okay. Theology today, we're looking at what people's ideas about God today in this postmodern world. Okay. Since the 9th. Okay, but we're looking at the 1900s. But I get you and I understand and I agree with you. I think it needs to clearly state that.
Right.
It doesn't state that we are looking at current trends, but there's a historical approach to it. We have to look at current thinking in context. We have to look at the pretext. Yes. So yes, I completely agree with you. So there must be we're going to right. So what I have done is. Yes, that was just from the original. That was from the head of the department when they were asking me to teach the course, and they said so. I actually sent him an email indicating that I will be lecturing. But I actually had been telling everybody I'm lecturing a new course this upcoming semester called Theology Today at the Jamaica Theological Seminary. So I sent him an email, Richard, and I said that there's a few questions that we have to consider.
I want to go back to Jamaica.
Yes.
I want to plan a trip.
Yeah, but let's finish this.
Okay.
There's a few questions to consider and topics to explore for the semester. We have to. What is theology? And how does your theology speak to the issues and challenges of today? That is where
theology, the study of your interpretation of God,
in its very raw and simplistic and basic and rudimentary definition, it comes from the word theos and logos. Theos, the Greek word theos, which means God, and logos, which means the study of, or book, or so it's the study of God. Okay.
So
yes.
Pretty much what
But Paul Tillich says it is man's ultimate concern. Religion is man's ultimate concern, which is his theological basis for doing reflections about God. Paul Tillich. Okay. So theology is really it's theological reflections about God. It's man's reflections about God. Okay. And societal philosophy is the pursuit of wisdom. Theology is a kind of pursuit of that which is divine, that which is the ultimate. Okay. But so we will look at what is theology, but more importantly, because this is theology, because the students in this course would have already done systematic theology and other theology courses. Okay, but this course, I want the course to be more practical in terms of their reflections. We want how. So the most important question, the driving question that drives this course is this one: how does your theology speak to the issues and challenges of today? Because the student, this is a senior course, it's a finals course. The students in this program, are in their final year. They're in their final year, so they would have developed by the time. So this is the semester that they're supposed to be developing a theology, their understanding of God. Okay, they have to write their theology in a sense. So in this course, they have to write. They would have already come to prepare. So the first course, the first class is, I want to know the students. What is your theology? This is your fourth year. What is your theology? What is your systematic theology? What is your contemporary theology? What is your theology? Okay, because this course is going to look at how does your theology speak to the issues and challenges of today. That is theology today. It says look at current theological thinking. No, not in a conceptualized way, not in a theoretical way, but in a practical way. In a practical way. That is what this course is contending with. The course is will not just look at theological thinking in terms of current theological thinking. What it will look at, in a theoretical way, but we'll look at theology in response to the issues and the challenges of today. That is theology today. How does your theology speak to the issues and challenges of today?
So can you give me an example?
What solution, further, what solution does your theology provide? What challenges are we faced with today?
Yes, that's more so like your first question. But what solutions does your theology provide?
Right.
I like that.
All that is part of number 2. Number 3, is there a Caribbean theology? And how has it evolved?
Is there a Caribbean?
Is there a Caribbean theology?
No.
And how has it evolved? You're not even Caribbean.
I know.
So how can you answer that question?
Because there's not a Caribbean theology.
Of course. I mean, if theology is contextual and speaks to one's context, if theology is relevant, then yes, there's a Caribbean theology.
Well, then using that preface, then there's every type of denomination of theology. Then there's American theology.
Yeah, because theology cannot be theoretical. It has to be practical. It has to be lived within a particular context. It has to be relevant. So yes, there is, but I'm not going to answer that question for the students. I will ask the students that. The next one is, what relevance does it hold for us today? What relevance does it hold for us today? If there's a Caribbean theology. The next one is 5. 4 views on the axiology of theism. The axiology of theism. And what difference does God make? Okay? What difference does God make? 4 views. on the axiology of theism. And when you talk about theism is the belief in God. Those who believe in God are called theists. Those who don't believe in God are called atheists. So theism. So right. So theism, and when talk axiology, we're talking about the study of axis, things on axis. So what about? So we're talking about belief in God on the axis, but we will talk more about that. 6. What are the challenges to developing a theology today? That will involve looking at temple, sex, gender.
Reaching the masses. That's the main challenge. People to accept your theology. People to accept your doctrine.
Yes.
People to, see your people to see your doctrine in their lives, to make it true.
But some people think that is
relevant, to make it tangible.
That's the postmodern thinking, though. That's the humanist way of thinking of theology. The humanist way.
What was the last question?
Or in other words, it is human-centered, as if, it is relevant to us. No, we should be relevant to it, in a sense. But in terms of a top-down, that kind of the relationship between one's theology and one's position as a human being and the issues, that is a deep question that we have to contend with. Okay, but the next one is, what are the challenges of the destruction of the Canaanites, God, the destruction of the Canaanites, God, genocide, and biblical interpretation. 8. Ecclesiology for a digital church. Theological reflections on a new normal. So looking at the digital church. Number 9. Period poverty and the dark womb.
Period poverty. Where did I hear that from? This is not my first time hearing
No, because we did a podcast. I did a podcast with Shelley Weeks, the founder and director of Herflow Foundation, looking at period poverty and how the lack of the lack of access to reproductive health and so on, and reproductive health creates poverty because they lead to drop out in schools and so on and so forth. And you also heard it on a show on TV as well. So period poverty and the dark womb, reconceiving theology through reproductive loss. 10. Critical thinking and the priority of the mind. 11. Recovering Christian character, the psychological wisdom of Soren Kierkegaard. 12. The spirit of early evangelicalism, true religion in a modern world. 13. The resurgence of African theology and philosophy in 20th century practices, Kemetic spirituality, and Ubuntu. 14. Renaldo Mackenzie's neoliberalism, globalization, income inequality, poverty, and resistance. Because that looks at issues of today, what's going on in the Caribbean, politically, economically, social issues. And of course, lastly, secrets to unlocking divine intervention. So those are some of the concepts that we will be contending with, and I'm looking forward. And at the end of the course, the top papers will be featured in a journal that we will be having called Caribbean, towards developing a Caribbean perspective, or Caribbean journal, which I want to partner with Sage, because Sage Publications has invited me to submit an idea for a publication, for a journal. So I hope that this will be part of the concept there. That was part 1 of this first segment of this episode. We will have part 2 later this week, and of course, or next week. I think sometime later this week, probably on Sunday. Now we're about to get into part 2, or segment 2, where we provide a commentary on a story that NPR WHYY Philadelphia carried about the Delaware School District, and we had a problem with the analysis as it relates to the performance and what's going on there in Delaware and the school district. Listen to this segment, as it may provide some insights for you as you think about data and how to interpret and how to make sense of data studies and data analysis.
This is NPR News.
I am Ronaldo McKenzie for the Neoliberal Round podcast. So, just now I was listening to WHYY Philadelphia on 90.9, that's NPR radio, and they released a story, or shared a story, entitled Tough Couple of Years, Delaware Students' Academic Proficiency Far Below Pre-Pandemic Levels. Now, of course, I had a problem with the report, because the report says that while almost all Delaware K-12 students were back in the classroom last school year, albeit with periodic pandemic quarantines and closures, statewide testing scores remained well below the achievement levels of 5 years ago. 5 years ago. However, the story says that Delaware students' academic proficiency far below pre-pandemic levels. But yet the benchmark they were looking at, and when they talk about pre-pandemic levels, they're talking about 2017 and before. But COVID did not start in 2018. COVID did not start in 2019. Okay? The pandemic did not show, and many schools did not go to remote learning and so on and close it up until middle to late into 2020. Some schools 2021. So when NPR or WHYY shares a report which is written by, and the story was submitted by Chris Barish on August 9th, 2022. Okay, and the report is flawed. Okay, it's a flawed report, because here it says that Delaware students' academic proficiency far below pre-pandemic levels, but yet still they're talking about prior to 2017 and before. They're comparing levels now with 2017 levels and before. But we know that Delaware students' academic proficiency has been a problem since 2017 to 2018, 2018 to 2019. So before the pandemic, proficiency or academic outcomes were already falling. In fact, it fell drastically between 2017 and 2019. Yet, they would have us to believe, WHYY or Chris Barish and the Delaware School District would have us to believe that the levels that Delaware students' academic proficiency, when you come, is low right now because of what stemming from the pandemic. But the issues of this low academic performance is from before that. And then, of course, those low performance, the fall in their proficiency levels between 2017 and 2019 is met with COVID and the adjustments that school have to make. So it is not so that is the issue here. According to the report, it said the state released the scores for its 140,000 public school students Tuesday morning, with state education officials calling the numbers a baseline for recovery from the pandemic. A baseline for recovery from the pandemic. But it cannot be a baseline when you're comparing it with 2017 and above, when figures were already falling. So I don't know how you can use that as, how can you use a baseline that compares 2017 with now, when proficiency levels was already that. And I'm telling you, that is the problem when it comes down to critical thinking. That is the problem when it comes down to analysis. Our professionals and those who are responsible for making decisions from analysis are not provided with the right information in order for them to make the conclusions, or the people who are making the conclusions are the same people making the analysis. The report goes on to say that students in grade 3 through 8 take standardized tests for math and English annually. 11th graders take the SAT, and students in various grades take other tests on their knowledge of science and social studies. In March 2020, days after COVID-19 first struck, Delaware Governor John Carney closed school. That was in March. Governor John Carney closed schools statewide, so the state did not administer tests that spring. So schools reopened for hybrid or online only learning for 2020 to 2021, and fully open classrooms for the academic year that ended in June. The new scores for grade 3 through to 8 are slightly higher than the previous year, but well below the 2017 to 2018 school year. They are well below the 2017 to the 2018 school year. This, according to the report, 30% were proficient in math, up from 26% the previous year, 5 years ago. 42% were proficient in English, up from 41% the previous year, 5 years ago. And students considered proficient have exceeded achievement standards and demonstrate advanced progress toward mastery of knowledge and skills of the state standards, according to the State Department of Education. Now listen to this. They say that the new scores for grades 3 through 8 are slightly higher than the previous year, but well below the 2017 to 2018 school year. And they said that 30% were proficient in math, up from 26% the previous year. 5 years ago, 44% were proficient. 5 years ago, in 2017. Now, in 2018, that number fell drastically. And then it says 42% were proficient in English, up from 41% the previous year. 5 years ago, 54% were proficient. 5 years ago, that's 2017. But 2018 to 2019, what happened? And 2019 to 2020, what happened? So we have to look at it. We have to go beyond. And I said to somebody some time ago, COVID provides an interesting opportunity for people to blame everything on, even when COVID isn't the only issue. It's not the only issue here, because things were spiraling out of control. Things were happening. COVID then came in and made it worse. But it was already worsening. But people were more than happy to blame COVID. Yet they're looking at a baseline between now and that of 2017. We'll be right back after this. Thank you for listening to the Neoliberal Round podcast. This season of the Neoliberal Round podcast promises to be very busy. We are getting into the busy season, or probably not really this season, but this is August, and we're getting ready for September. And as we draw close to September, we are getting busy. We have a lot of great episodes lined up for you, a lot of interviews, a lot of shows, and by the way, you guys will get a chance to, I will be teaching at JTS, so you guys will get a chance to hear some of the presentations, some of the lectures, some of the discussions. I will interview some of the students, and I will be in Jamaica soon to also spend some time to meet with some of the students and to interview some of the people at Jamaica Theological Seminary, and to find out what's going on in Jamaica and to share that with the world. Thank you for listening to the Neoliberal Round podcast. We'll have part 2 of segment 1 soon. And then, of course, we have an interview that we're supposed to be doing with, I think it's Bishop Stevens with a church in Germantown, the Evangelical Church in Germantown. We will get that released for you shortly. And I ask you to continue to listen to the show, send us your feedback, share the show with your friends, follow us, subscribe for free, and you can also donate to us at https://anchor.fm/the neoliberal, spelled TheNeoliberal.com/support. What good?